Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Snyder, Chair of the Finance Committee for the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. I call to order the Finance Committee meeting of June 12, 2025, and it's shortly after 6 p.m. First of all, welcome everybody who's here. Thank you very much for your continued contributions on behalf of the welfare of the public. And thanks to everyone who will be reviewing our work at this meeting. Michael, do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
Thanks very much. First item is the approval of the May 8, 2025 draft meeting summary minutes. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes? We need formal action on that or just sort of receive them?
You usually vote, yes, sir. And people who haven't attended the meeting are allowed.
Yeah. Okay, then entertain a motion to approve the summary minutes of our Thursday, May 8, 2025 meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, and item passes unanimously. So we have some discussion and information items. I think the big comment about tonight's meeting is at our last meeting, we went into some detail about the various safety nets, if you will, that's established in the case of major financial disruptions. I think we then presented similar discussion to the larger authority. So I think we got a very good conversation on that. Obviously, anytime we entertain questions about that. So let's go now to the next agenda item, which is the monthly investment portfolio report. Ms. Sen.
Thank you, Chair Snyder. As Gary is pulling up the chart on the screen, which is a benchmark comparison chart, to give an overview of our portfolio performance, NVT's portfolio yield remains strong and continues to outperform our key benchmarks. As you can see, it's 23 basis points higher than the ICE BOFA 18-month average index and 69 basis points higher than the LGIP extended maturity pool. Although our yield has dipped slightly by 1 basis point when compared to the April, indicating the portfolio is adjusting to market trend at a measured pace. To give a rundown on our economic backdrop, the Fed funds rate remains steady at 4.25 and 4.50%. The next meeting is due on June 18th, so something to look out for. Market expect rate cuts of 2 rate cuts and by the year end, and it's likely, the first one is likely to happen in September 25. So they are targeting around 4% by the year end. While inflation is a primary concern, Fed is also monitoring the labor market closely. The Q1 GDP has contracted by 0.2%. It shows signs of slower economic growth, largely due to the impacts from tariff. Regarding our investment strategy, we have continued to focus on the 3 to 4 year bonds, while to benefit from the potential rate cuts. Our ongoing diversification includes investing in high quality bonds like the supranational bonds like the World Bank, which is AAA rated, higher than our US Treasury. And we refer to our 5-year maturity chart that we have. Usually it helps us to identify any gaps that we have in the coming months in the next 5 years. So we place our reinvestment strategy accordingly. With that, I conclude my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
So I guess the fundamental question is, are you seeing anything on the horizon that could significantly change the results that we've seen so far?
In terms of yields?
Yeah, in terms of our investments.
Yeah, eventually our portfolio will, as you can see, it's going to eventually follow the market trends, but it's catching up slowly. If you could see, the difference between the 2 benchmarks is drastic. But it's just starting this month or starting April, you'll see the benchmark, the yield has reduced a little bit. So we are eventually going to catch up with the market price, but not as much. The dip wouldn't be too much.
This is the first time this portfolio had gone into, it has been looking at the significant market drop. Previously, when we started the portfolio, we only had investments that were a couple of years and it was at the bottom of the market. So as Dev is explaining, the whole point of the process that we're following is to extend the maturities on the investments that we're buying now. And hopefully, as the market goes into another trough, those maturities, because they're fixed rates, those investments will hold the yield over time. What we will do as the market goes into a trough and hits the bottom, of course, nobody knows exactly the time that that's going to occur, but we will stop buying long maturity securities and start buying short term maturities so that we have more cash when the market inevitably does come back up.
Hello, how are you?
How to be better, 95.
Yeah, well, we'll fix that someday.
What do you think you could do about that?
Well, welcome, thanks so much. So we just heard an investment report, that continues to show us better than benchmarks, right? Is that's sort of the bottom line? Yeah, and we're gonna continue a process that hopefully will continue those results. So I welcome. So the monthly revenue report, Mr. Longy.
Thank you. I'm going to go straight to the attachments. Attachment A, which is up on the screen, shows that our sales tax numbers are exceeding our budget projections by 7%, which is a slight increase from last month. It's about a 0.5% improvement from last month. So it's going in the right direction. You talked last month that we typically see a dip this time of year, and that'll become more pronounced on one of the other charts. We were hoping that that was the dip that we've seen most years. I think it was 80% of the last 25 years. Can't really have an explanation for it, but it does seem to happen very frequently. The Interstate Operations and Enhancement Program is done for the year. So that is a VDOT estimate. We don't produce that estimate. The Regional Congestion Relief Fee, that otherwise known as transaction, likewise has a slight improvement. It was negative 31.7, almost 32% last month, and it's improved to a negative almost 31. So basically about a 1% improvement. The transfers from we have that fixed $20 million a year transfer, so there's really no estimation going on that. Overall, our positive variance has gone up to 0.66 from 0.21 last month. So I would recap the revenue as basically saying slight improvement, but it doesn't really set a trend, obviously, at this point. As an aside, sales tax runs 2 months behind. So the data in May is actually March's transactions. Grantors runs 1 month behind, so that the data in May is April's transactions. Good. Attachment D.
So we're pretty close to budget and maybe a little better as well. That's the bottom line.
Yes. And we do try to end the year with slight positive variance, as we talked about before. So we are making that goal fairly. This chart shows you the month-to-month change on sales tax. Again, it's kind of hard to see. If you look at the bottom, see May come up. We've got that slight positive variation, which is also a seasonal trend. Looking at the portfolio summary, the portfolio has currently earned $72 million on what originally was a $32 million estimate. So it's way outperforming its benchmark. We anticipate it's going to close out the year at 85 million, roughly $50 million over estimate. So the bright spot is the portfolio. It's our second largest source of revenue now. Looking at grantor's tax. Grantor's tax, things in April were pretty darn depressing. But they came back in May. There is grantor's tax, obviously, is the real estate settlements recordation of deeds. There's a lot of variability in this. We have jurisdictions, such as the Prince William County Courthouse, who also does Manassas Park. Arlington does Falls Church. Sometimes there's a lot of bounce back on the transactions. So I really don't look at a trend on grand tours until we've seen it for 2 or 3 months. With that, that's our update on revenue, a little bit better than last month. The markets were surprised today that inflation did not. There was a bunch of inflation indicators that were released today, and it didn't show a major inflationary trend. Continuing unemployment claims were higher, but even new unemployment claims yesterday came in lower than expected.
Questions at all on these reports?
Yeah, Chair. Heard you on the grantor tax. Maybe I'm just curious, and the overall is fine, but interstate operation enhancement program being down from budget. Is there a way to tell a story about why that might be, or what that actually is?
I don't have, it is the IOEP, as we call it, is a percentage of the interstate enhancement programs fund balance in VDOT. I think it's 8.2, 8.4%. VDOT makes a projection of the fund balance and gives us that number. We have no way to.
We don't have the spreadsheets or the mechanics. This is formerly known as the I-81 program, and they changed the name because it covers, we get a percentage from other interstates, but getting to the mechanics, we don't know what they're receiving to get to the estimated 8.4% that we're supposed to receive.
And if I can follow up with that, when it was related to I-81, it was revenue that was based on diesel fuel purchases, long distance and short distance trucking registrations, and interstate licensing revenue. We were actually the canary in the coal mine when we saw that money coming in and said, this is nowhere near the estimate. If you think the IOP now is a big miss, it was about a 70% miss.
Weren't we supposed to be an estimate around 20 million a year initially?
So do we just take that for the budget? We just take what VDOT tells us, basically, and
I have no other way.
Sure.
Well, we've actually, let me revise that a little bit. We did take money off their budget because of their track record, of their number. But it just keeps getting worse.
the diesel and the registrations, because I just had no idea what it actually was. So that,
Well, I'm sorry, that's not it.
Yeah,
It was-
that's how it started.
That's how it started, and we started asking questions of the Commonwealth. There's no way you're gonna get to your projection. The Commonwealth finally admitted that all of their projections on 81 were wrong, substantially wrong. And so the General Assembly switched us from that mix of levies to this 8.2, 8.4% transfer.
Any other questions? Okay, next report.
The two items of note on the operating budget is we've expended 67% of the budget through 83% of the year. But we have some significant expenses that haven't been incurred yet or billed yet. I do want to note that we have that $181,000 of relocation expenses that is going to be paid for the land by the landlord. We have submitted the paperwork this week to get that reimbursed. And I'm not seeing any controversies or difficulties that the landlord that we've done very accommodating.
Any other questions, Cal? Operating budget?
Mr. Chair, I just had a question. Item C. The website, does that include all the other marketing costs, like marketing, the new logo, that?
No, that's just revising the website. Our website was kind of cobbled together over 10 years and really well cobbled. But it was starting to show reliability issues and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
When you said, sorry, it'll be quick. To Deshanda's point, when you said we have a lot of costs to incur, is the website the biggest piece of that or some other cost? Okay, great.
And we have some contracts that are in this year's operating budget for our phone system and data dashboard. And those haven't been billed out. Thank you.
Great. Love numbers. I love stories about numbers sometimes. Deeply about numbers.
I like good stories about good
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot. Okay, not seeing anything else on those reports. Ms. Backman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief. Just to remind the committee that we have a call for projects open for the 6-year program update. This will cover fiscal years 30 and 31. The applications are due August 1st by 5 p.m. I think the system may shut down at 4:59. It is automated and we give people or localities and agencies several months to get the applications in. But once the system shuts down, which we don't control, we just put the little time in, it closes. Then the resolutions of support are due for the applications, and the resolutions of support must come from the governing body. They are due October 31st. We do provide a little extra time to get the governing body's resolutions of support. Switching gears a bit, staff, we are working on the bike ped funding that we were asked to do by the chairs of the Senate and House Transportation Committee. So we are doing that work now. We are in our infancy stages. At your July meetings and subsequent meetings, we will be in a better position to give you updates on how that initiative is moving forward. Lastly, we are rapidly approaching that time to update your long-range transportation plan. Your current transaction was adopted in December of 2022. And just to go back to the 6-year program, every project that you fund with regional revenues, these projects by code must be in transaction. But we are drafting the RFP. Hopefully it will go out later in the fall to initiate the update to the region's long-range transportation plan. Working backward, we anticipate coming to the authority in 2027. It may sound far away, it is not. For us, it's quick, but we anticipate coming back to the authority in 2027 for adoption.
Any questions for CEO Backman? Okay, not seeing any. There's some correspondence. Mike, you want to audit planning letter, and what's the audit process?
This is pretty much a boilerplate letter. If you read it, it does get a little scary. But the auditors are independent and they meet the standards set at the federal level, state level. And of course, generally accepted accounting principles. There's really not a whole bunch to say about it. Basically, the finance committee is the audit committee. And the letter kind of lays out that I think the most important takeaway is if you as members of the finance committee or as members of the authority board have a question that you want to give to the auditors, they are available and I am not the go-to.
And what's the schedule now, next steps with the audit?
They started the preliminary field work with an on-site visit a couple weeks ago. In May. The fiscal year ends June 30th. Peggy has a lot of work ahead of her in closing out the books. We will look to have the audit to the authority in November so that we can make the statutory requirements to file it with the auditor of public accounts.
Yep, good idea to meet the statutory requirements always. Yeah. Anybody have any questions about the audit procedure? And I do want to underscore if there's any issue you want auditors to consider? Are they supposed to contact the auditors directly or go through you?
Typically, they would go through you as chair of finance, but there, I cannot put any of.
Yeah, probably should go there. Yeah, so please, bring those to my attention. If you have any questions? So we need to audit. Well, does anyone so that's pretty much our agenda for the meeting tonight. Does anybody have any questions or is there anything I'd like to bring up at this meeting? And are seeing any, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that passes unanimously. Thank you all very, very much. Thanks, staff especially.
Well chaired. It's only 6 months. You guys passed a minute. Sorry.
Okay, Arlington, what's your excuse? Mine was 95.
What is this?
I have a.
All right, bring her, I love beige.
Well,
So we're
can't
gonna
bring
have
her.
that.
She's a
too.
handful.
We
She's
can
great.
mention this.
we're having a lot of fun. Sorry, 95.
The RNC going out.
So we don't probably have as good an excuse because we're close enough.
But no,
Trying to make it.
Toddler is a big.
I know.
Not little people.
I have elderly.
Okay, so do I. We got teenage toddler.
91-year-old.
No, we can.
Teenage toddler.
They're different ages. Pretty much.
Go from the morning till,
Well, I had lunch with you.
So
did you have
I got it right. You are sitting in your meeting or are you on?
No.
Great.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Things can be.
At our office.
Harvey?
Yes, so we submit reimbursements, expenses for reimbursement. There's I think a requirement, you like, it's like a journaling requirement to have like the extra